Hello my crafty friends! My name is Leah Day, and in this video I want to teach you how to add a touch of crochet to any garment. So I'm adding crochet to this baby onesie. I found that just a little crocheted neckline helped to reinforce these skinny little straps, and it looks super cute too. Now I am using a rotary cutter, and this is a slotted rotary cutter. It has evenly spaced cuts. And this is absolutely perfect. Now, alternatively, you could use like an ice pick and a ruler and measure things out, but I think that this is just so much easier, so much faster. Now, I can freehand this. I'm aiming to line the rotary blade up with the middle of this binding here, and I'm just pressing down firmly and trying to stay right in the middle as I roll forward. You can grab a little ruler here. These are quilting tools, not really crochet tools, but it's nice to be multi-craft tool. And that will help you stay in the right spot. I'm trying to line this up to put one more nick right there. Now these holes seem like they're a little bit big, but they're actually the perfect size for the yarn I'm using. And this is Feels Like Butter Lion brand yarn. So it worked out perfectly for that. So go all the way around your garment, cutting those holes. And I like to evenly space this. So I started with a hole over here on this side, ended with a hole on the other side. And I'm going to begin cutting this shoulder. And this is where I really had to freehand it because it's just such a tiny little garment. I placed my blade so that the first hole cut just a little bit up from that corner right there, and just press down and begin your cut. Now just be really careful that you don't, your hand doesn't slip and you don't just roll right into your other hand or slice up your garment. This is every single one of those little blades is very, very sharp. So the next step is to start a stitching row to get our yarn connected with our garment. So I'm going to take my yarn and arrange it around the neckline, and I want to have enough yarn with the needle to go around 3 times. So there's 1 time, there's double it, that's 2 times, and then double it again, that's 3 times. That should be right here. Plenty of yarn to be working with, and it can get really overwhelming if you have way too much yarn to work with. So I'm going to just keep this attached to the ball. I threaded on a nice big needle, and it has a blunted end and a nice big eye, so that way I can easily thread my yarn. And I'm going to pull that through that bottom hole right there, and this is the bottom back hole. And I am left-handed, so I typically stitch from left to right. Please do this however it works best for you. All right, so I have this lined up. I know I have 3 times the circumference in yarn on this side. I've got the yarn attached to the ball on this side, and I'm going to tie a little square knot. So there we go. I tied a little knot right there that just secures the yarn, and it secures the yarn so that it is up on this edge of the garment. That's where you really want it. And we're going to surround this edge with a blanket stitch. Now a lot of people call this different things, but I learned this as a blanket stitch. Here's how we do it. We're going to go straight through the hole, and that's the needle going forward to back. Pull it through, and this is why we don't want way too much yarn to work with, but we want to make sure we have enough to go all the way around. You're going to have a loop here. You're going to pass the yarn back to front through that loop, and then tighten it down so that the yarn is lined up right with the edge of the garment. Don't pull it too tight, otherwise it will distort. We'll do that again. We're going to go front to back with the needle, pull through, and then you see how that stitch looks kind of diagonal going that way? Now we're going to take the needle and go back to front through the stitch, and that's going to straighten it out real nice. Just like so. Okay, we're going to go all the way around the garment. Go all the way, whatever you're stitching, whether it's a onesie or a sleeve or a little hem, you're going to go all the way around with this stitch. So here's what it looks like when I get that stitched. And whenever you're turning a corner, you might be wondering if you do anything different. You don't. You follow the exact same steps for all the other stitches. needle in front to back, and then back through the yarn, back to front. So that's how you do it. Now I am over here nearly at my starting point. I have one more stitch to make. So again, I'm going to go front to back with my needle, pull that down, and then through the yarn, back to front. And I just give that yarn a little tug just to make sure that everything's looking good, and that is perfect. Now I'll take my needle off the yarn, no longer need it, and I'm going to tie another square knot. So I just make a pencil shape and then another one. Just think tying your shoes. So there we go. That is that knot nicely tied. We have a knot next to it. Don't worry, those are not, it's not a hard lump, and then there's not really noticeable. They really do help to secure your yarn, get it at the right height, and get you started on the right foot. Okay, now our shorter yarn, you can see it's right here. We no longer need this. I'm going to trim it a little short, and I'm going to make sure to include that, just line that up along that stitching so that as I crochet over it, it's just going to seal that tail up and I no longer have to worry about it. Now it's time to actually crochet, and this is the part that really gets wonderfully creative. So we're going to start out with just a series of single crochets. Of course, you can do whatever you want to, but the first step is to pull up a loop. So I like to go through that space right on the corner, grab my yarn, pull it up. I've got myself a loop. And now I'm going to chain one. That's going to get me to the right height for a single crochet. Of course, if you wanted to do double crochet or treble crochet, you would need more chains. It's totally up to you what you decide to stitch. Now I'm going to do 2 single crochets into this space. I found that was a nice fit. And then the next one, because that's not, it's just a little bit big in that one space, I want to do 1 single crochet in the next space. So that's how the pattern that I'm going to establish: 2 single crochets in one space, 1 single crochet in the next space. And all I'm doing, I'm inserting my hook right there in the loop created by the yarn, by the stitching I just did. Now this extra piece of yarn is just my yarn tail. So I'm just sealing that up. I'm just including that as I crochet down that line, just so that way it's sealed up and not waving in the wind. In fact, actually that's probably long enough. I can clip it off. 2 single crochets there, 1 single crochet in the next space. Now when it comes to your pattern, this is entirely up to you, and it may be something that you have to do a little bit of stitching and experimenting and ripping out and playing with it until you get something you like. In this case, that first row, I did 2 single crochets, 1 single crochet into each space. That was the original foundation line. And the next one, I did a little scallop, and that was 5 double crochets into one space, and then a single crochet, maybe like space over 2 and a single crochet, and then 5 double crochets. It was a nice little scallop design. That was really cute. And then I did just single crochets on top because I found that was really about as much space as I needed to add that nice decorative element without making the neckline too small to go over Betty's head. And I actually had to put it on her and test it out a few times just to see how this would fit. Now this one was a onesie. It was a long sleeve onesie that I had given to me, and of course it's getting hot, so I wanted to cut the sleeves off and put on a cute little frilly sleeve. So I did the exact same process of cutting and adding the crochet to both sleeves. In this case though, I wanted this nice ripply lacy effect. So what I did was 2 single crochets into each and every single space. And then the next row, there's only 2 rows here, the next row was 2 single crochets into each crochet. And that creates this intense ripply effect. So I hope that you enjoyed learning how to do this with me today. It's lots of fun. You can add a touch of crochet to any garment. If you'd like to find more creative crafting videos, come and check out my website, leahday.com. Until next time, let's go make something cute.